Typhoon Yagi rips through northern Vietnam, leaving at least 21 dead and more than 229 others injured.
Vietnam's government says at least 24 people have been killed after Typhoon Yagi triggered landslides and floods in the north. Nearly 300 people were injured, and there is more flooding to come. The typhoon is Asia's most powerful storm this year and has disrupted power supplies and telecommunications in several regions.
At least 11 people have died in southern Morocco after exceptionally heavy rainfall. 14 others are missing in Tata province. Several houses have been washed away and roads damaged by flash floods. The country's weather service said the region had been suffering from drought for 6 years. In neighbouring Algeria, the authorities have sent 114 emergency services personnel, including divers and rugged terrain specialists, to the western Saharan province of Bichar.
Collapsed bridges and entire roofs ripped off, destruction left by a typhoon sweeping through Vietnam. At least 64 people have died in a typhoon that's ripped through Vietnam and destroyed a major bridge. The storm first hit the Philippines and the Chinese island province of Hainan last week, killing 24 people before making landfall in northern Vietnam over the weekend, battering the coastal city of Haiphong and the popular tourist area Ha Long Bay. After passing Hanoi, it weakened into a tropical depression, but it's left a massive trail of damage in its wake. And a warning that John Ray's report opens with some pictures you may well find distressing.
The worst of the ferocious winds and torrential rain had passed, but not so the dangers. A lorry and several cars ahead of it plunged into the swollen waters of the Red River, which swept away entire sections of a bridge that had been busy with traffic. This motorcyclist survived by clinging onto an uprooted banana tree. Even so, he says, I believed I would drown. The collapse caught on this security camera came with no apparent warning. The current was strong enough to carry off steel. 13 people are still missing. Typhoon Yagi struck Vietnam over the weekend with the power to move the earth. And to command the seas. This cruiser was one of dozens of vessels struggling in vain to stay afloat. Winds that reached almost 130 miles an hour ripped roofs from buildings. Dozens have died. Many others only just escaped with their lives. Here, by a fraction of a second. As Vietnam counts the cost, scientists warn that climate change means storms are becoming more frequent and more violent. John Ray, ITV News.
More than 60 people are reported to have been killed in Vietnam as Super Typhoon Yagi swept across the north of the country. Huge amounts of rainfall in the mountainous areas have swollen the Red River, bringing down bridges and unleashing landslides. Graham Satchell reports.
There is no warning for the horror that is about to happen. Right in front of them, a bridge collapses, taking with it a lorry. From the air, you can see the damage. This is the Vietnamese province of Phu Tho. It's believed 10 cars and trucks and 2 motorbikes were on the bridge when it plunged into the river, killing 13 people. Miraculously, some survived. 50-year-old Pham Thrang Son was one of 3 people pulled from the river. I tried my best to float to the surface, he says. I was out of breath when I was on the surface. I still thought I would not be able to survive. Large parts of Vietnam have been left devastated by Super Typhoon Yagi, which hit at the weekend. At its worst, there were gusts of up to 200 kilometers an hour, ripping off roofs and pulling up trees. The storm destroyed Nguyen and T. Tom's restaurant, where she also lived with her 2 daughters. I've lost everything, she says. There's nothing left. I didn't want to cry, but I couldn't help it because it hurts so much. It is the rain that has done the most damage. There's been widespread flooding which has left thousands homeless and more than 1 million without power. Some have lost their lives in landslides. One alone is reported to have killed 17. It's the unprecedented rainfall that made the Red River in Futho province so dangerous. The extraordinary weight and force of the water causing the Phong Chau Bridge to collapse. More than 60 people are reported to have been killed by Typhoon Yagi, the worst storm to have hit Vietnam in 30 years. Graham Satchell, BBC News.